In this episode, we are joined by Asper Aimsley from the planet Pernot 17, where failure in the pursuit of improvement is celebrated.
He supports efforts to improve Pernot 17 by creating Pernot 18 and doing things better there.
So roll up your towel into a pillow, lean back, and
prepare to learn that it's hard to have repeat business when you kill your customers.
Shut up and sit down.
welcome back to Hitchhikers and Appetizers. I am Trellis Gardeen, coming from booth 42, and is with me, as always, is...
I am Horatio Zinn. I assumed it was me because there are only two other beings in the booth with you.
Yes.
And I'm the one you know. We have a guest.
Yes, we've gotten to know many other people besides each other.
Yes, which is good, because I think if it was only just us talking to each other, it would sound so much like our first episode, and people get confused.
That was not as intriguing as our guest today.
No, could not possibly be. I'm going to wager that your name is Asper Aimsley.
No, you would be entirely correct in that assumption. Thank you so much for having me, you guys.
Oh, it's wonderful to have you here. Thank you. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, it's been nice. It's just been nice to get away. You know, work is crazy and family, and you got to deal with all that stuff.
What do you do? Well, first of all, where are you from? What planet?
Oh, well, I hail from the beautiful and very visitable Pernot 17.
Oh, Pernot 17.
Pernot, yeah, it's a pretty nice place. It's we've been making it nicer and nicer as time goes on. I work on sort of a regulatory board for planetary improvement, for certain terraforming projects, things like that.
Ooh, a lot of paperwork involved in that?
You would be surprised at how little, actually.
Oh, streamlined.
Well, paper isn't really so much of a resource for us as it's a consumable that's unnecessary and something that needs disposed of. So it's largely thoughts.
Okay.
Oh, well, so I should mention one of the things about Pernot 17 that's rather interesting, I think, is we're an iterative planet. We've been trying to figure out the perfect world for quite some time. It's called Pernot 17. This is our 17th try.
Well, you know, they always say the 18th is the one.
We're hoping that 18 is a charm.
The charm, yes.
I believe it was iteration 7. We tried intense birth control, and it led to a planetary die-off in birth rate that proved to be unsustainable, so we had to start over again.
I bet that was fun.
Yes.
Well, then we tried unchecked birth, which was its own whole kettle of fish.
I said that the first part of the unchecked birth part is quite enjoyable, but the results, I think, could be a bit overwhelming.
After a while, people just get tired of procreating.
Imagine that.
Yeah, not just the upkeep of the children, but just the sheer amount of time involved, and eventually you've got to find ways to, like, spice up the procreation, and you got to try new things, and our people simply ran out of fantasies to enact on each other.
Oh, my.
Oh, ran out of fantasies.
There's also the mess afterwards.
True.
Clean up.
Quite a bit, though. Afterbirth is an incredible source of energy if you can find the right way to process and burn it.
Oh, I was just talking about the mess that comes from the actual conjugal act.
Well, yes, I mean, that's honestly a bit trivial depending on how many pets you have.
That's very true. Very good point. I'm sorry, I distracted from something you were going on to there.
He's saying that they do a lot of curbing to the reproduction process.
Ah, very good. Yes, thank you.
They certainly do. Yeah, once you get above 5 or 6 of them, it becomes difficult to procreate anymore.
Yes.
Because now you've got all this time taking care of the children. We tried another iteration with unchecked birth where you simply kicked them out the door as soon as they were born so that you didn't have to deal with any parenting.
Very practical.
I like that one.
Yes.
That one sounds like my iteration.
Yes.
Yeah, this is why we believe what we do on Pernot 17 is important, you know? Nobody gets anything right on the first try. You've got to sort of, like, take a solution to a problem, see if it works, and if it doesn't, you make a few tweaks and you try it again.
So there's really no failure, just learning.
I like to intentionally do something incorrectly a few times just to get it out of my system. Just to really make sure I punched all the holes
Those first 3 attempts, we were really screwing around. We were just having fun with the planet for a while.
Yes. It's just a planet. It's just life.
Yeah, we'll just, the gravity will reverse every 6 hours or so, and just sort of see what happened. People bouncing up and down, hitting ceilings. We had to stop. A few were ejected into space. And, our people don't breathe non-oxygen or non-gases of any kind.
I find I do not breathe space very well.
Have there been more visitors to the planet as the iterations have improved?
Oh,
It's funny when you're talking about changing things up, there's different kinds of tourists showing up.
yes.
So, for example, when we had the unchecked procreation, it became sort of a fornication tourism planet where people would come in order to sort of, sow their wild oats across our world, which was great for biodiversity. Honestly, we had a lot of...
I was just going to say, keeping the gene pool very flush.
Yes.
Yeah, we had a lot of different species coming in, a lot of crossbreeding, which led to some very interesting developments. We had some sort of uber creatures that developed on the planet and some that couldn't live there at all. So, I will say it was probably the most fun time in the planet's history.
I could see how that would be fun.
But, with all fun comes consequences, and the consequences of that were extremely dire. Yeah, and everybody who wanted to come came and died, and everybody else who didn't want to come and die stayed where they were, or went to one of the many other tourism destinations that are slowly bleeding us dry. It's hard to have repeat business when you kill your customers.
Yes.
Oh, I'm going to write that down. I have to write that. It's hard to have repeat business. Yes.
Now, you can have that one for whatever business you guys need to run at any point in your lives.
It's fortunate. It's good for us to remember with our guests not to kill them, because many of our guests we'd like to have back.
I would hope so.
Well, we definitely try to avoid that on Glandar. We want people coming back for more upgrades, if you will. Some people come in for maybe a nose job, maybe more angular chin, adding an arm.
Now, let me know, how does that go? Because we've been trying out some things with bioenhancement and such.
Ooh, bioenhancement. That sounds much better than plastic surgery.
It does.
We're not entirely sure if it's something that, let me put it this way, is it really helping people as they come in and get those things, or are you simply enhancing a culture of vanity that's going to keep people sort of unhappy on the planet forever because they're always looking for the next thing?
It can be both. Some people are coming strictly just for the vanity. They want to look like someone famous, or someone may have a drinking problem and they get an extra liver or two put in.
Or perhaps they want an extra hand just to hold extra beverages.
Exactly.
Well, that's pretty fun. If I could make a suggestion, if you wouldn't mind.
Yes,
please.
We did have a program for a little bit. I believe this was somewhere around iteration 11, where we would allow people to simply swap body parts with each other at will. So if you and your neighbor were sort of I'm jealous of his arms and he's jealous of my lower torso, we'd be like, hey, tradesies, and you could just get those switched out as much as you wanted.
Would you have interchangeable parts, you just pop it out of the socket and then pop theirs in, or do you have to have actual surgery?
It was sort of a potato head style sort of switching around of parts.
Ah, yes.
Sorry, I don't know if you guys have potato heads on your respective worlds.
If you take a good look at Horatio and myself,
Yes.
if there's anything you think you might want to swap out, does anything jump out at you?
First of all, I know my beard is very impressive, and it does come with lots of crumbs and bits of the relics of food I've eaten.
One thing that we found very difficult was moving beards.
Yes.
They contain not only just the number of fine hairs and follicles that need to be moved around, but they turn into their own little living ecosystems.
I know mine has.
Much like a gut bacteria situation where disturbing it is too much trouble. So I think, Horatio, your beard would absolutely want to stay where it is.
I think it would. It's very happy here.
Yeah, if I was going to say anything, the sizes of your heads to your bodies could honestly be swapped just to become a little more symmetrical. I mean, Horatio, your head is so thin and your body so wide.
Yes.
And much the opposite for you, Trellis. I mean, massive noggin sitting on top of... I'm afraid for it, really.
It is large. It is large.
I do use it to get my momentum going when I walk. Like, so wherever my head starts tilting, I just automatically start going in that direction.
Yeah, so for the two of you, I think it would just be more of a balance adjustment than anything else. You're both very attractive.
Of course, thank you.
I have to say, I hope it's not untoward to say
No.
that sitting in a random booth when I've just met the two of you, but...
Also, I don't know about you, but I often am tempted to just tap the top of Trellis's head and just watch it bobble a bit. So if you want to do that, please go right ahead.
I would, but I'm afraid from what he said that if I were to tap it in any particular direction, he would go flying off.
I am sitting, so I should be okay. But that's I'll leave it up to you. I'll leave it up to you. Now, you mentioned you had like work was like, what was going on that made you decide I need to go grab some food at the restaurant at the end of the universe?
Well, we're working on a new version of the planet right now.
Oh.
You start with your initial ideas. You got to sort of debrief the last planet, and then decide what went well, what went wrong. You got to make a pro list and a con list. Then you got to send it to the stuffed shirts, and then they send it back. And we've been tied up in committees for it's got to be a couple of centuries at this point.
What are the shirts stuffed with, by the way?
Mostly the parts that they added in that previous iteration.
Okay.
A lot of people went with vestigial arms. They became a sort of a fashion craze for a while. You get 2 little extra ones for helping you clean things and hold on to items while you were eating with the other 2 hands.
Wave at people while you're carrying other things.
Yeah, but people just started going arm crazy. And eventually everybody's torso was just covered in this sort of horseshoe crab looking set of different feelers. And now you've got a shirt that's just full of writhing digital appendages.
How many would shirts have a number of sleeves to accommodate those, or are you just these hands just bursting?
Some people like to have them free at all times. Some people pretend to think of them as more of like a private, intimate thing. That like, if you want to see the rest of my arms, you got to buy me a drink first, kind of thing.
Do you have clubs where someone might strip off the different layers and show different hands?
It's true, and it takes forever.
Yes.
A single tease might take, hours and hours just revealing one arm at a time. As I said, these are small vestigial arms, so you can fit a couple hundred on a torso.
They might be mistaken for chest hair if they're that small.
If you get them small enough, and if you can get them supple enough, and if you brush them enough, you could get them to look like sort of a hairy covering. They tend to look more like a writhing sort of situation, like a rippling sort of anemone of flesh.
I can just see how erotic that would be, to have a dancer on a stage in front of me with all these little vestigial...
Well, that was what was such a problem with all the sex tourism.
That's true. That you were just asking for sex tourism with that, because who wouldn't want to see a vestigial?
Hundreds of vestigial arms, Horatio.
Like almost like little parasites.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's just erotic
Well, people can find titillation anywhere. You've got to sort of give people something that they don't find anywhere else.
I certainly haven't found that anywhere else. I know on my home world we have an amusement park called, actually it's an amusement park museum. It's called the We Should Have Known Better place.
Oh yeah, just repeating all of your planet's greatest mistake. That seems like a pretty good idea.
You just go there and go like, I'm glad we did not. I'm glad we're not still doing that. It's one of those places.
Maybe I should build like a trolley that goes through all of these zones at some point so people can just sort of see the history of the planet, as it were.
That would be lovely. You can see the development, the rise and fall. Yeah, historical tourism.
There's ecotourism, sex tourism. You could add historical tourism.
I would have to make sure that the train didn't stop in the sex tourism district. I feel like we would never get any guests back.
Also, you might want to strap the guests down into the trolley when it's going through that area so they can't just all jump out.
Well, you would have to. One of the zones has so little air resistance that the tram would just immediately speed up to at least 20 times its original speed.
Very good. On your left is, well, it's gone now.
And left is subjective. You know how it is with intergalactic travelers, left and right, up and down. Some people sense direction in a way that is completely foreign to their bodies. They might think of it as sort of more of a smell or a thought or a rumbling inside their digestive tract.
Well, giving direction sometimes is to say, I want you to keep going until you smell the flowers, and then that's when you divert off toward the north. and then things like that.
I wonder if for species who like live in the primarily fourth dimension of time, if this would be confusing for them because they might feel like you're going back in time, but they're thinking to themselves, I'm not actually traveling through time, but why is the time changing?
It's funny that you mentioned that, Trellis.
It is hilarious.
Had a couple of species who I'm sure you guys have met who experience things outside of space and time a little bit.
Yes.
And they find our planet horrifying because they're reaching us and experiencing every version at the same time simultaneously.
That could be overwhelming.
Yes, they're experiencing both all of it and none of it, and it becomes very confusing and disorienting, which we've had several of them simply vanish and or implode within our city structures, taking out entire blocks just by the antimatter collapse. It's been so we've put up a bit of a disclaimer on the planet right now that says if you perceive time in a non-linear form, then you have to at least sign a waiver so that we're not liable for any accidents.
No, that makes perfect sense.
Waivers are so important.
Yeah.
I've always said the most important thing you can have is a policy.
And I'm sure they're probably not reading the fine print either, so because no one ever does.
No,
and we don't translate the fine print either, so they don't even know what they're signing.
Often the fine print is just gibberish, I've noticed.
Another source of income, you could be having them sign over any possible life insurance policies to you as well. Maybe not the most honest thing, but very lucrative.
Yes.
We're always looking for ways to do that. In fact, one of the reasons that I came to talk on your show today, I know that you guys have an insane reach out into the rest of the universe, is that, iterating entire planetary structures and changing societies, building all new architecture, all of these things, it takes quite a bit of funding and capital and labor. And we're starting to run just a titch bit thin on money for the next one. The shirts are up my holes about it.
No, I don't like it when the shirts get up my hole.
No.
It's not my favorite thing in the world.
No.
So I'm just here to announce real quick that we are beginning a fundraising drive for what will be Pernot 18.
Okay.
So if you would like to kick in just a few of whatever local currency you have, you can find us on the Galactic message boards. Just search in Pernot 18. That's Pernot-18. And you can put just whatever you can spare into the bucket, or if you happen to know any wealthy donors or people who are willing to donate physical labor, we would be really appreciative because the next version we're trying is going to be absolutely spectacular and the most expensive one we've ever built.
Would they get some sort of perhaps a brick with their name on it, or a tree with a plaque, a bench?
Honestly, at this point, we'll give you whatever you want. If you want a statue of yourself in a town square somewhere, we'll give you that. If you want a building in the shape of your own genitals, we'll do that for you. If you would like us to simply take your face and turn it into one of our many moons, totally fine.
Fascinating. I have a dream of being on currency.
Horatio, for the right amount, I will put your face on every bill and coin circulating around this place.
Now, I want to be on the backside of it, and the part that people look at and go, oh, there's more to this. There's a conspiracy behind where his nose is, and there's a triangle there. And
maybe if
like
they fold the bill, they could turn your head into a mushroom.
Yes. It's a dream of mine.
You could eat the bill, and it would turn your head into an actual mushroom.
Fascinating.
That too.
Very useful.
Now, do you have any issues? Is it all about the money, or if some people were maybe not, let's say, the most savory people and they wanted a statue, do you guys have any problems putting up statues to people who are maybe not the greatest of examples?
Well, I've heard a lot of worlds have trouble with things like this.
Yes.
And here's what I've got to say. We make sure that on our planet, we don't allow for a lot of hero worship.
Very good. Heroes will always let you down.
Because we celebrate failure on our planet. We take it as something that is, with this, we tried this, it didn't work, and therefore we're simply moving on from it. So it's not good to get bogged down with too much of like, oh, this guy was so great, because we assume that everybody makes mistakes and that there is no reason to hold people up on that pedestal because they will disappoint.
Oh, yes, yes.
I'd like to volunteer myself then for a possible mascot who I think would still end up being worshipped. Captain Failure.
Oh, that's an interesting thought.
After failure.
I could try to fly and by running and taking a few steps and jumping and then just falling flat on my face. I could try to eat and just miss my mouth hole. I could trip a lot, drop things, generally doing the exact opposite of what you would think.
He also is really good at working large novelty scissors to cut ribbons at stores and things like that.
My only thought, if I might give a note there, would be that, Captain Failure, we're not striving for failure on Pernot. We're simply saying that if failure is a consequence of our design process, then it is something we will accept and will take on and will admit that we were wrong. We would love one day to have sort of the final product, something we can box up and ship out, and you could have your very own Pernot in your star system. Sort of a franchising deal.
Oh, fascinating. Pernot to go.
And the fact that Captain Failure isn't maybe the greatest one is in fact a failure in and of itself. So I think it's a winning idea.
And you know what? You know what, Trellis? I see that and I respect that, and I'm taking that bad idea as something that is okay to have had. They say there are no bad ideas in a brainstorm, but they only become bad ideas after the brainstorm.
Yes.
Yes.
Much like in a regular storm, the hail looks wonderful coming down, but it could damage your roof.
We've eliminated hail entirely. That was a huge design fault. I don't know why other planets have it. I go to these conferences all the time with all the planetary architects and people who are trying to make different terraforming improvements. Everybody wants hail, and I don't understand it.
Oh, these conferences sound like fun. What does everybody do with these things for? Is it release of ideas or?
Yeah, well, there's a sort of a mix of the crowd. There are the people who are trying to create their perfect utopias, which is completely impossible. There's no such thing. You have the super rich who want these bespoke planets just for themselves, where they can have everything exactly how they want and as fancy as they want. Then you have the people who are like, they've got an idea for a planet and they're thinking about it, and all they can talk about is this cool planet they're going to make one day, but they have absolutely no follow through and are never going to do it.
They may get a couple of pages into it and then...
Yeah, they'll get through a couple of design drafts and then they realize that they don't have the money or wherewithal to actually produce the planet.
And then that first continent, it's always just wonderful, but then the other continents have no detail.
And after a while, you're like, dude, just make the planet or don't. You know what I mean?
Oh, here comes Tom. Oh, I bet he's got another planet that's awesome he's going to tell us about.
Or he's going to keep talking about that one planet that he's been talking about for 10 years.
Right.
And somehow
Right. Where is it?
Hasn't found the time to even start on the planet. What else are you doing, Tom?
Where's the planet, Tom? Come on. Jeez. Oh, they're the worst.
So the convention circuit is sort of, it's difficult to find the right people there.
Yes.
But I've given a few symposiums, I've been to several, but hail is actually an incredibly contentious part of that process.
With hail, you have to decide what size and how to measure it, like against what type of sport equipment.
Hail is largely dependent on, the strength of the convective currents upward and the temperature of the upper atmosphere and the composition of the fluid that's coming down and all these kinds of things. It's just too many variables for absolutely no return.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's
yes.
like when, do you guys have poutine?
Poutine, I'm sure they have everything here at Millyways.
So it's kind of like if you're trying to get a simple dish like, say, a poutine,
yes.
and you go somewhere and you're like, oh, they have poutine, but the poutine has, it's a regular poutine, but we've also put green onions and pulled pork and jalapeno peppers and cheddar cheese and all that. It's like, just make the fries and gravy, guys.
Oh, I don't want vegetables. I just want sauce.
Just do what you're good at. Hail is, I'm sorry, people get on me all the time about, I get really frustrated and angry about hail, and I can't stop talking about it.
I can tell you're very passionate. Now, were you once harmed by hail? Did hail have an effect on you personally?
No, nothing personal against it at all. Nothing has happened to me. There's no trauma in my past. It didn't kill my father or anything like that. I just find it so unnecessary.
That's fair. That's fair.
Maybe you should probably be giving a talk
It's like sun-dried tomatoes. It doesn't need to exist.
Maybe you should give a talk at one of the next conferences, like hail, it's a fail, or something. I don't know.
I've tried. Nobody ever shows up. I'm kind of known as like the guy who won't shut up about hail.
You're the hail guy.
Yeah, whenever I can always tell. Nobody ever says it, but when I approach a table at the bar at the conference, you can tell that they're whispering to each other. It's like, here comes Asper. He's going to talk about hail for half an hour again.
No tables ever just turn up and say, all hail Asper.
Yeah.
I wish they would, and one day they will. I've been trying a few things. That was one of my campaign's slogans, to try and get people to talk about hail. I had a shirt made. It had so many armholes.
Yes.
And those you could have had little pieces of hail in the hands, and they could have thrown it at everybody coming at you. Like, is that fun? Is that fun? No.
Once you bring hail down to the surface and you're holding it in your pocket, it's just ice cubes.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. No character to it. Then I was wondering if you had ever been pelted with hail as a prank.
A drive-by hailing?
Yes, or a bucket full of hail just falls down on you.
Usually people are a little more considerate than that. They'll throw very light balls of, say, paper or styrofoam or popcorn to simulate throwing hail at me, but we have a pretty strict policy at the conventions of not actually harming the other attendants, and so no hard substances have been winged at me as of yet. But I feel that over time, as we keep doing this and people become increasingly frustrated with our constant fundraising drives, that the anger may grow.
They're like, oh, he's coming asking for money again for another version.
You know, that's just part of it. When you've got to continuously fundraise, people eventually just stop giving.
They
Now,
just assume it's yes.
If you could control the size of the hail, that might actually be a nice way to advertise nobody would ever have a warm drink. Because you could literally just hold out the glass, and hail would fall into it and keep your drinks constantly cold.
You promote your planet as a natural ice machine. Nice.
Essentially, that would just be snow, right? I mean, if we just had a place where it was snowing all the time, you would get a little snow cone in a cup if you just waited outside long enough.
Oh, that would actually be lovely. I would love to live in a place like that.
What flavor would you go for, Horatio?
Oh, and I would go for the Heinz 57. I would just have to try different flavors. I can't decide.
I'm going to be honest with you, Horatio. A Heinz 57 snow cone might sound like a bad idea to some people, but it is legitimately, in this moment, sounding like something I would genuinely try and enjoy. Well, you know, I'm hoping it takes fewer than 57 attempts to get my planet right, but we're working on it. Again, you can go and check out that fundraising drive. It's on the intergalactic boards. That's Pernot 17. And we will do literally anything for your money. So please don't hesitate to embarrass or degrade us in any way that you would like, because
we will do anything for your money. I'm writing that down.
The way things are right now, if we run out of money, we're going to have to shut the planet down.
Oh, that doesn't sound good.
Yeah, and then we've got a lot of people that we got to find new homes for.
Would you have a going out of existence sale? Or anything like a sale?
Anything cheap that we could pick up on?
Yeah,
We'll be happy to. You can come down, take any cultural artifact you want. This is, of course, a worst case scenario. I'm not offering this at this time.
This is a hypothetical.
But if we were to have to shut down, then certainly we would liquidate all of the assets, you know, several million years of cultural relics, art, culture, materials, things like that. And then we would probably just part the planet out for precious metals, rocks, etc.
So you wouldn't say perhaps rent the planet out for parties or weddings or receptions or things like
All
that?
All options are on the table right now, Horatio.
Storage.
You know, we're sort of looking at different ways that we can continue to operate, and whatever makes the most sense for us in the long term will be whatever we go with. But for now, we're working toward our ideal, which is...
I'm sure the stuffed shirts have business models.
Of course, yes, you have to. We're simply working toward a Pernot that will not only be wonderful for its inhabitants, but wonderful for tourists from around the galaxy to come and check out and have a good time and spend inordinate amounts of tourism cash at one of our many cafes, rides, amusement parks, and sex dungeons.
Sex dungeons, yes, very good. That should... You buried the lead on that one.
You know, you'd like to put it up front, but when you put it up front, then you're the sex dungeon planet, and nobody wants to be that.
You like for people to know it's there, but you don't think that's all you have.
Yeah, it's simply a part of the experience. It's like at a theme park where there's like the adults only bar.
Yes. Yes.
Oh,
It's
yes.
basically that.
Well, you heard it out there in the audience, people who are going to be listening to this. Get onto the Galactic message board. Start donating, and a brick, a tree, you anything you want.
It's yours.
Will be added to the planet with your name. Full name.
We'll make an
nickname.
element where every atom looks like your face.
Yes. You could have your initials put onto their periodic chart.
We'll carve them anywhere. Do us a favor. Put your cash on an asteroid and send it hurtling toward my planet as soon as possible.
That way you'll know it's coming.
I can see no way in which this would go wrong.
No, that would be perfect. That is the ideal delivery system.
It's going to get there to destroy 17. In which case you'll be making 18 out of the cash from the asteroid.
And just between the three of us, we have an excellent insurance policy on the place. So
Nice.
No one else will hear about that, sir.
This has been fascinating.
Yes.
Horatio, what do you have written down there that you think will make the cut?
I enjoy, and I think this
entry?
is very practical. It's hard to have repeat business when you kill your customers. There was silence there, so I know you were impressed by it. No, we will do anything for money.
That speaks to me. Anything else? Asper, are any of these? Donate now?
yeah, I think if anybody looking in the guidebook wants to know anything about us, then they would know. Yes, absolutely. We try to be a leader, a thought leader in galactic business, especially for planetary terraforming. So yes, please don't kill the people that you're trying to sell to. Always be fundraising. That's sort of a motto of ours.
Oh, celebrate failure.
Of course.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm typing these in.
And I think if the guide had one last thing that I really want to put out there about our planet, it's that your every desire can be fulfilled no matter what it is, but it doesn't have to be gross, but it can be wink wink.
I just typed in the little winky. I typed in
Yeah,
the
make
winky
sure you
faces.
write down wink wink.
Wink, wink.
Yes.
I have it in brackets so they know it's
Very good.
an actual physical thing. And I'm hitting submit, and there it's in. Oh, fantastic.
Well, guys, I'm glad I could be of help.
Asper, this has been wonderful.
Oh, no, this is
absolutely.
lovely. If we could be of help, even if unintentionally, that's...
If you raise one asteroid hitting your planet with money on it, I will feel like I have helped.
And I too will feel helped by that. Do you guys know if they validate parking here, or?
They do, or in the gift shop.
Yes,
All right,
which is right over there. You can see there. And you can also get some lovely keychains.
Yes.
I will check it on my way out, and I'm going to just ignore the fact that my food never came.
Nope, that's...
Oftentimes that's the best way because they do not like it when you point that out.
You know what? Good business model. Never complain when you are wronged.
Thank you for joining us for Hitchhikers and Appetizers. And of course, special thanks goes to our guest Asper Aimsley. I have been Horatio Zinn.
And I continue to be Trellis Gardeen. Until next time, keep your towels clean, and remember that there is no point in driving yourself mad trying to stop yourself going mad. You might as well just give in and save your sanity for later. So don't panic.
Everything you heard in this episode was improvised, but not everything improvised was heard.
This episode of Hitchhikers and Appetizers featured the voice talents of Mike Gorgone as Trellis Gardeen, Bran Peacock as Horatio Zinn, and Ed Morgan as Asper Aimsley.
Finally, Hitchhikers and Appetizers is part of the Improv in Action Network. Check out other great improvised podcasts and projects at improvinaction.com. If you'd like to reach out to Trellis or Horatio, you can send electronic messages to them at our Galaxy address, hitchappspodcast@gmail.com. Or you can find them on Twitter with the handle hitchapps.
Shut up and sit down.